Hello, friends, and welcome to another thread from our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. I'm Dave Makes Noises. You're looking for memes. So with that, we ask the subreddit, what was an event in-game that you did that became a meme in your group, in-game and out-of-game? Part 1. Now's probably a good time to announce that we are doing a fatty boom batty dice giveaway with our friends over at Easy Roller Dice Company. Rip asked me to handpick $180 worth of mad luxurious dice and accessories that I would want for myself, and so that's what I did. One winner takes the whole pot, so click the link in the description below or in the pinned comments, follow us on Twitch and Twitter, and go visit EasyRollerDice.com for your chance to get your hands on Rip Daddy's brimming stimulus package, courtesy of Ripper himself and our sweet friends over at Easy Roller Dice Company. I'll go first. One time, my character adopted a human child, and this is the first time he had to feed him because he just captured a city with his party and an army of orcs who want to make all non-humans have rights. So, after the day began, my child woke up and said, "Dad, I'm hungry." So I said, I'll go get some food. Later, I brought back some food I did not specify to the DM and a cow carcass for a punching bag. My character was a Rune Knight fighter and wanted his son to follow in his footsteps. My son then proceeds to ask me what I got for breakfast. And I told him, "Oh, some leftover chicken from the party last night, as well as some soggy broccoli." The soggy broccoli got my DM and the others laughing for a fat 5 minutes. So now whenever we have food, we say at least it's not soggy broccoli. Or whenever my character gets food, they say, "Did you forget the soggy broccoli?" Even the whole summary of the session that my DM had to explain to some guys who couldn't make it was just soggy broccoli. But it's not all we did, LMAO. During the final boss fight, the bard was late to the session, and to make things easier to run as everyone else started, the DM ruled that the bard had polymorphed into a giant crab. Cue crab rave and knife crab memes for the rest of the time, especially once the bard finally arrived and fully embraced it. My current group has a lot of characters that can use ranged attacks. A ranger and fighter who both use bows, one barbarian who frequently opts for throwing javelins, another barbarian who sometimes throws his hand axes, and a sorcerer who has killed his fair share of monsters with magic missile. So we often have these moments where a character is making a ranged attack of some kind, and it always deals a lot of damage for some reason. Then one person starts saying in a thick southern accent, "That man's in pincushion range," which is followed by everyone repeating them. I love my friends. So they were exploring this mine with a basilisk in it, so they tried to find a mirror. They found one, and instead of taking the mirror, our sorcerer who was sent to get it takes the nail it was hanging on. We then sent the bard to get the mirror. Out of character, the sorcerer says that we should be serious about this, and she says something about using the nail to fight the basilisk. We all start laughing, and I die of laughter. Eventually, they defeated the basilisk, and then the sorcerer attuned to the nail. It gained the ability to nail anything in place anywhere, even in the air. Example, nail a board to the air. That board is not going anywhere, not even if one tries to push it. So the nail also spawned a hammer to go with it. The hammer can remove the nail from what it's nailed into. Back when a few newbies joined up with our game, they got a bit confused since they misheard what save they had to make against a spell. They wanted to ask wisdom or charisma save, but what came out was charisdom save. Charisdom has been a joke stat ever since. I have one of the weirdest D&D group, so whenever a person couldn't play, we made up an NPC, also known as an excuse, and the DM not wanting more work. They called it the Giant Purple Baby. I wasn't there when they made it up because I left the room to get snacks, and I came back and my DM said, "Leviana was taken by the Giant Purple Baby." It was very much a WTF moment for me. I thought my character was going to die, but nope. A giant fucking purple baby was what gave my group the excuse to not let me be there. The level 2 party I DM for killed some giant rats hanging out in the basement of a warehouse. They proceeded to spit them through a broomstick on the way back to their inn. Along the way, they hired some street hooligans to carry the broomstick and one to go ahead of them proclaiming, "Make way for the mighty dragon slayers!" The bard really did a great job acting it out and working up the crowd all the way to the inn. Now, the rat on a stick is a running joke in our campaign. When the cleric was attacked by a rabid rhinoceros before being slung through the air by said rhinoceros and landing, dangling by his genitals from a tree. To this day, anytime the cleric sees a rhino, he immediately runs and hides. and the player of the cleric got a rhino tattoo IRL so he could always recall his favorite moment from his first ever session. Not me, but my player. They play a tiefling wizard warlock named Rowan, but they have coined the term sword yeet. Let me explain. Their favorite spell is catapult, and whenever they defeat an enemy that wields a sword, they take the sword and carry it around till the time is right to throw said sword with a catapult spell. So the cleric in the party has the observant feat, giving her a 19 passive perception, but her rolls hate her, so whenever she rolls investigation or perception, she can't see crap. It's so much of a meme that when I ask her to do either of those rolls, she doesn't roll and says she doesn't see anything. The rest of the party know her as the observant one, mostly because she floats above everyone else and watches everyone like a cat, and yes, she can float. Remember, we are the good guys. This is the reoccurring meme in our campaign when things go bad. It happened when the party first found a big-ass clam and broke it, revealing a huge pearl inside. They sold the pearl to what is essentially a pawn shop for a lot of money. Then they came across some tritons in heavy armor, obviously royal guards, who were looking for their ceremonial clam, which has disappeared. Fast forward, they were supposed to protect a village from the Yuan-Ti, and since they somehow decided Yuan-Ti have vulnerability to fire damage, put a trap, which burned the village to the ground. Further down the road, they ended up in a shadowy town with a bounty on their head by a criminal for saving a woman from his henchmen. So they decided to rob him in a game of cards. So while the rogue was cheating his ass off on a game of poker with him, the rest of the party sneaked around the mansion, pocketing whatever valuable items they can find. And since they couldn't find the code for the safe, they decided to burn the office, which happened to be near a stockpile of gunpowder. In the meantime, the rogue snuck some poison into the gangster's drink, which made him get diarrhea. One nuke, which lit up the entire town later, the party was seen running for cover in the outskirts. The lawful good paladin out of character. Remember, we are the good guys. Just one word. Just one. Pit. In a certain campaign, one of the characters decided to make use of the pit spell with really good results. Because of that, the character kept using that spell, and spells of the same family, but of higher levels, to the point that the GM had to specifically plan for the enemies not to end up in the pit. It got so egregious that just exclaiming, "Pit!" told us what was this character, and later one of our cohorts, casting. Always with great, or at least hilarious results. Now our WhatsApp chat is called Saturday Pits. The Discord channel that I created for us to play during the pandemic is called Role-Playing Pits, and I shall not speak about the link shell that my friend created for all of us that plays Final Fantasy XIV. Yes, it does indeed have pits on it. Our poor GM is still waiting for the joke to die. In the first session, the druid ordered a charcuterie board. Whenever we are at a tavern, we ordered a charcuterie board. Also, we were talking about how my character, Edda, is really reckless and impulsive. She has a +1 to wisdom, but the character with a -1 to wisdom is always telling her to slow down and think about things. So the DM joked that she should be called Edda the air quotes wise. So I started introducing myself to NPCs as Edda the air quotes wise. I had a BBEG that would constantly appear in the form of an illusion. On the BBEG's first appearance, the Azamar barbarian said, "I'd like to throw a javelin at him." He rolled to hit and got an adjusted 23-ish. I described the javelin traveling straight at the BBEG, but phasing through him. Barb, "I throw another javelin at him." Rogue, "I throw a knife at him." Sorcerer, "I chuck a rock at him." To this day, whenever the BBEG appears, they will throw something at him, knowing it won't do anything. So there's two memes with the same player character. We were playing a game of 5th edition, and it was our first campaign. Most of our characters were pretty good, despite us being new to the game. I was a lizard folk light cleric. The DM's son was an arcane trickster rogue goblin. One of my friends was a dragonborn paladin. The last member of our group, however, was an orc ranger. On its own, that's not a bad combo, but the player put his highest stat in intelligence, had virtually no strength or dexterity, and was wheelchair bound, making him essentially useless in almost every situation except investigation. Despite doing nearly nothing in the fight, he would go up and loot the bodies afterwards, and because this was all he could do, he would shout, "Loot!" as soon as the fight ended. If someone else looted the bodies, he would point at them and yell "loot" menacingly. Now, whenever combat ends or when a bard plays their loot, players from that group always excitedly shout "loot." Same campaign. We eventually escape a crypt where we were being chased by a mummy lord and a cult at the same time. We temporarily defeated the Mummy Lord and permanently defeated the cult, and when the wheelchair-bound orc looted the body of the cultists, he found a bag of magic beans. When finally left the crypt, we found the town we were in had been partially destroyed, and its denizens had become zombie-like creatures. In an attempt to escape the chaos, we found ourselves in a field where the orc planted 2 of the magic beans. The DM rolls his D100 to see what they are and laughs, then rolls it again and says, "You've got to be kidding me," as both rolls spawn a pyramid with a Mummy Lord inside. So now we have 3 Mummy Lords we have to kill. We go to slay them, one by one, and with the last Mummy Lord, and the last one makes one final move before I kill it, killing our Orc Ranger. The player wasn't too upset by this and decided to use a character he'd used for a Halloween one-off, a Kalashtar wizard who we met up with after coming back from the Mummy Lord's temple. Unlike his orc character, the wizard was actually well-built and fairly powerful, and in our first encounter with him, a few of the zombified townspeople were lined up in a straight line, and when it was his turn, the players shouted, "Line!" surprising us all and causing us to laugh for a few minutes straight. He was so excited that he could now be a viable character in combat and that the enemies had lined up, allowing him to use Lightning Bolt to great effect. Now we shout this whenever creatures are perfectly lined up. And in a later campaign I DM'd, where this player was a sorcerer who focused on lightning magic, I gave this player a custom magic item to empower line spells if a certain number of creatures are targeted by it. Hello, my squishy little pods of interconnected cosmic consciousness. Thank you for attuning your meat pod to the very end. If you've got an event in your game that turned into a spicy meme, feel free to share it in the comments below. If you have another story you'd like to share with the community, feel free to do so in our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. If you're a DM or a player looking to get a group together, you may want to pop on over to Mr. Ripper's Group Finder Discord server, where over 3,000 nerdos are waiting to roll dice with you there. I hope that this week you make time to learn something new and intimidating that excites you. Take the leap. If you love me and want me to be happy, come say hello on TikTok at Dave Makes Noises. Please sub for Nat 20s. Ding that dong if you want to flex your punctuality on them. We love you here at Rip Daddy's house. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.